3, 2, 1. Our Las Vegas Holy Community, make some noise!
Make some noise!
Holy Community, beautiful Sunday morning. We're all gathered here today. We want to start us off with Happy Sunny Side of Life.
There's a sunny side where no hills be tied on the roads where we must go. There are pleasant
Next one is Unified Soldiers.
share. shall march on.
Faith, faith, faith.
Based on the order of God, we'll build truthfulness. One constant value that gives pledge of eternity. The highest standard of truth, which is raised above, will decorate far distant days of radiant goodness. Goodness, with pride and reward. Unified soldiers, mightily proclaiming, we shall march on. New culture dawned in the east, glorious beyond our dreams. Mankind transformed in its time shall be one family. Ever to serve and attend our true parents all. Without a doubt, the world shall be one world of victory. Victory is pride and reward. Unified soldiers, into that ideal we shall march on. With pride and reward. Unified soldiers, mightily into that ideal we shall march on. Mightily into that ideal we shall march on.
Awesome, everyone. You guys may be seated. You all. And this one is a fun one. We want to prepare something fun for you guys today. It Is Well With My Soul, the name of the song, but we added some Haven Street spice on it. And hope you guys like it. It is well with my soul.
It is
you sing your song again. Whatever may pass and whatever lies before me, let me be singing when the evening comes. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul, worship His holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul, I'll worship your holy name. You're rich in love and you're slow to anger. Your name is great and your heart is kind. For all your goodness I will keep on singing. 10,000 reasons for my heart to find. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul, worship His holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul, I'll worship your holy name. And on that day when my strength was failing, the end draws near and my time has come. Still my soul will sing your praise unending. 10,000 reasons and forevermore, forevermore. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul, worship His holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul, I'll worship your holy name. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul, worship His holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul, I'll worship your holy name. I'll worship your holy name. I'll worship your holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul, I'll worship your holy name. I'll worship your holy name. Yes, I'll worship your holy name.
Praise God. Hallelujah. Thank you.
All right, good morning, everyone. I hope you guys enjoyed that little medley we just sang. Anyway, now we're going to sing a new song we've never finishing it, so it sounds really pretty. Anyway, we hope you enjoy it. It's called Be Alright.
There's a name that can silence every fear. There's a love that embraces the heartache, the pain, and the tears. Through my faith and my doubting, I know one thing for sure: His word is unfailing, His promise secure. He told us that the end, everything will be alright. The whole world's in His hands. Your whole world's in His hands. In the darkness and the trials, He's faithful and He's true. The whole world's in His hands. He told of us that the end. Oh, 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 everything will be alright. Oh, oh.
Father, you say everything's gonna be alright, but my circumstances say I won't last through the night. Need your word to hold me down, need you to pull me through. I need a miracle, a breakthrough. I need you. Say the
It's in your head.
but my words falling apart like he's made of sand. Am I small enough to fit through the cracks? Can you take my broken pieces and put them back? Give me faith to believe you are on my side. Open my eyes to see you working in my life. Let the past remind me you never fail. Tell my soul it is well. So todo va a estar bien. Everything will be alright. The whole world's in His hands. The whole world's in His hands. In the darkness and the trials, He's faithful and He's true. The whole world's in His hands. Todo va a estar bien. Oh, oh, oh. Everything will be alright. Oh, oh.
He's got the whole world in His hands. 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 He's got the whole world in His hands.
Todo va a estar bien. Everything will be alright. The whole world's in His hands. The whole world's in His hands. In the darkness and the trials, He's faithful and He's true. The whole world's in His hands. Todo va a estar bien. Oh, oh, oh. Everything will be alright. Oh, oh, oh. Todo va a estar bien. Oh, oh, oh. Everything will be alright. Oh, oh, oh. Todo va a estar bien. Everything will be alright. Todo va a estar bien.
How's everyone feeling this morning? Why don't you turn to your neighbor and say, "Hi neighbor, I feel stupendous." All right. There's probably some non-native speakers in our audience, and that was the first time they've ever said stupendous in their life. Awesome. We're going to greet our Heavenly Parent. So when I do the count of three, we're going to say, good morning, Heavenly Parent. 1, 2, 3. Good morning, Heavenly Parent. We have our true parents picture over there. We're going to greet our true parents. Our true mother is going to feel our love, and our true father in spirit world is going to feel our love. 1, 2, 3. Good morning, true parents. We have people from all over the world in America tuning in, watching what we're doing. So we're going to say good morning to them. They're via Zoom. We have a camera. Let's look at the camera. We're going to say good morning, Zoom people. 1, 2, 3. Good morning. We hope you're here. Please come. If you're from another country in the world, get a plane. Come join us. God's love is here. Feel it? We're Heavenly Parents' holy community. This is substantiation time. No more do we have to talk about a figurative God's love. No more we have to worry about indemnity all the time. It's time now. We got to take all the effort from all the Providence of Restoration till now, all the effort true parents made, all the effort members made. And now we got to substantiate God's love in our community and into our lives. And how do we do that? By smiling, by having fun, by looking at our brothers and sisters saying, I feel stupendous. Yeah, it's going to be fun today. So today is one of my favorite weeks, and we have such rich history in our community. There are people that have been here and then been serving true parents for over 30, 40 years. And there's certain experiences that our elder members have that me and the younger generation probably are never going to have experiences like that. And so we have this week called the Fireside Chat. And it's kind of like imagine we're being around a campfire telling stories and talking, and that's the whole idea behind it. And I'm excited for this week. We have someone in our community named Uncle Bob Smart, and he's been serving, and he served true parents at East Garden for over 30 years, doing security and driving and many things. And he has unique experiences and stories, and so it's going to be a lot of fun to talk to him and hear it. So let's welcome up for our Fireside Chat, Uncle Bob Smart. Okay, let's get cozy. So, yeah, we got a fireside chat, so let's get cozy here. Whew. I was cold, but it's getting a little warm now.
Yes.
Good to see you. Thank you for joining us. He was a last-minute fill-in, and I was calling people, and I was like, would you like to share? And the person's like, oh, maybe in a couple, it's kind of intimidating. Like, in 3 days, could you be willing to share? And I called him up, and I'm like, do you think you could share? And I'm just ready for the normal response. Oh, talk to me again in 2 months. And he's like, Jonathan, I feel I have to. Yeah. So tell us a little bit. We're going to get we always do a little background of your story and where you came from. What was it like growing up, or what were you like before meeting this movement?
Not good. I was, well, we talked about this yesterday, so I said that, before meeting true parents, I was kind of doing my thing, and I thought that, boy, if there's a God, I'm going to have to change a lot. I'm going to have to be quite different than I am right now. And so, like a lot of people, we don't want to change too much, right? So I didn't want to change because I knew I'd have to change a lot. So I was always in the habit of talking about, talking to Christians. And I felt like I got to talk about this kind of thing. I got to understand about this kind of thing because I know deep in my heart I have to change. I got to do something. And so I talked to Christians and debate them in school, and I always thought I defeated them, at least in my own mind. I had all my arguments worked out and all that kind of stuff. And so I like I went through college like that, and I worked in a hospital, and then I said, I got to get out of here. I didn't like what was going on there. And I decided to come across the country with a friend of mine on motorcycle, driving all over the place, and, and I fulfilled my life's ambition, driving over Easy Rider style over the Golden Gate Bridge. That was it. I did it. So once I did it, what am I supposed to do now? So I went over we made it over the bridge, and then I went to Boonville. I thought, I got all my arguments, all my logic, and, I'm going to talk to this girl here. I'm going to defeat her like nothing, she does. So I'm sitting there for a week, and I was totally leveled. All of my arguments were shot. Legs taken right out from underneath me. I couldn't say anything. She'd be asking questions that I didn't have answers to, and then she'd answer them. So it was kind of difficult for me for that week. But because I knew that if I always felt, if something is true, you got to follow it no matter what. Was there anything else to that?
I remember when you shared with me that a couple of days ago, that thing, when you were debating people, a big part of you was like, I have to win.
Oh, yeah.
Because if I don't win, I have to change.
Absolutely.
And then I'm going to use your words a bit, but like when you came across Divine Principle and you heard it, you're like, oh shit, I got to change.
Yeah, exactly. I said, I'm in big trouble now. I got to change all those things, and I got to spend most of my time doing this. Otherwise, I won't be true to myself.
What did you have to sacrifice by changing? Like what?
Everything.
What did you lose?
I lost my friends. I lost my parents. Everything. All my friends said, "What are you doing?" I knew you before, and now what you're talking like this religious, you believe in God, and my parents, they were, good people, but not religious. So this is very new to them, especially, taking my lead from a Korean guy. Not so good, Back maybe our generation, or I should say my parents' generation, they just came out of World War II and that kind of thing. And so, not too much of a difference between Koreans and Japanese or Chinese, but it's the Japanese problem, right? But they really couldn't accept it. I hurt them badly, but I had to do it.
So so now you have to change your life. You feel like, oh shoot, like now I got to change. So you heard this new way of thinking, this new principle. So you learned it. And then what happened? What did you start doing? What was the next part in your life of faith after that?
Yes, I forgot what we talked about, but anyway.
It's the acronym. It begins with an M and ends with a T.
Yeah, I had to do it. We went. I did a lot of stuff in Oakland and Boonville, and like fundraising and stuff. And then I went to MFT, Mobile Fundraising Team, for 4 years. And then a lot of experiences, of course, and incredible experiences. And then, in 1979, I was asked to come to, East Garden Security that was through a gentleman, Mr. Kamiyama. And, I asked to come to East Garden for 3 years. Yeah, 34 years later. So a lot of experiences there.
He just forgot to put the zero when he said it was a translation error.
Put the zero. Yeah.
So what kind of roles you did security? What did being security at East Garden look like? Like what would your day be like? What kind of roles did you do?
Oh yeah. Well, Father had us, like a schedule where he had 8 hours doing guard duty and divine principle study. We had to do a lot of divine principle study, and we had prayer conditions and work on the property and things like that. And martial arts, we had to train martial arts. It was called Wanwa Do, a combination between judo and karate. you know, so we did that. And
Did you sleep?
yeah. We didn't sleep a lot, but we didn't sleep as much as we were supposed to because we were told if we were driving the family around, we had to sleep more than 6 hours, but it didn't happen usually. So we're bad boys in that way.
Yeah, so being in that environment, you were around true parents and true family, and you must have had a lot of personal experiences. Is there an experience you can share where you really saw how dedicated true parents were to God's will, like how hard they were working or what type of mindset they had?
Oh, yeah. Well, one, which one is better? The one at the halfway house
No,
or
the
Holy
first.
Rock?
Yeah, no, actually, the first one would be the one where True Father was on trial.
Right.
And
We talked about three.
we went through so many stories.
Yeah,
So True
yeah.
Father's on trial, and
So which one? Which
well, so what happens is he's in the trial, and then he has to attend the trial, and then during the breaks, what was he doing during the breaks?
Oh,
that
yeah,
story.
yeah. That's, there was a pretty long trial, and only a certain number of people, True Mother, True Father, a lot of the leaders, they could go there. But actually, because it was a federal building, there were only a few people that were actually permitted to go there, to be at the trial. And then there was like an anteroom outside of the trial room, and you always had breaks, So there were two people, and Steve Tarble, Mr. Tarble, he's in this area now too. He just moved here recently, but we were taking care of the room, outside the courtroom. So sometimes I could be in the trial, and sometimes somebody else, and sometimes can you imagine? Two clunky Americans were buying, like different things for true parents to eat. We're bringing them into the room, and we got to serve them. We're serving them, the guards. We're thinking like that. So, anyway, I noticed that Father every time, he used to drink a lot of water, and he'd go into the trial and he'd sit there, and then he'd come in. And he'd sit down in the chair, and he'd be drinking water and and listening to the lidders talking, reporting for a long time. We'd just fall asleep, and Father would just be listening, and it occurs to me that Father never goes to the bathroom. He's 60 years old. This is after 1980. Over 60 years old, and he, doesn't go to the bathroom. And I'm thinking, this goes on day after day after day, same thing. So I'm thinking to myself, Father must be making some kind of condition, or whatever, And this was a few years later, he actually explained that. He said that he deliberately did not go to the bathroom, But he used to do that a lot, right, Reverend Kim? He'd speak long hours, actually 5, 6, 7 hours. I think the record was about 15 hours straight. He wouldn't go, The translator would go right there, but he didn't go. And then he'd just wait, But, this was, Father, it just wasn't enough, to make all the sacrifices. It's an element, I can't remember the Korean word, but it's for sincerity. What's sincerity? Tangam, not tangam. Jungsang, right, Jungsang. So, he couldn't do enough. He even had to deny himself on that level, not go to the bathroom, not eat something, not do something, It just wasn't enough to be there, to be praying, to talking to people, dealing with people, but it had to be more. There was never enough he could do.
And for those in the audience who are more new, there was an experience in our founder, True Father's life, where there was a mistake with taxes and not enough tax was paid. And they used that as a reason to send him to prison for a year. And it was something that actually, like, it was pretty outrageous in the fact that it's religious leaders serving others and a minimal tax evasion, that it became a rallying cry for religious leaders all over the country, many of which that were persecuting even our true father before. And so it was a big event in our movement's history. And so during that trial time, yeah, he would be in this intense trial, and then during the breaks, wouldn't take a break, would sit down and listen to leaders' reports and be totally attending there. And that's a 24/7 lifestyle. And so, yeah, the story goes then he had to actually go to prison, Danbury, for this period of time. Yep. And then afterward, you transition through a halfway house. And you have an experience to share with that that's pretty unique that I don't think anybody else on this planet has.
Yeah.
So,
Can you imagine? True Father, he's doing all of this, and, you have to go to a halfway house to transition, so that you could re-enter society. That's a little bit of a joke. So, because he'd go down there, he'd come down at about 10 o'clock, I think at night, and then leave at 8 o'clock in the morning. So, like my job at that particular time was to be night crew, night duty. So I'd drive down there with a police officer from White Plains that we had hired that was part of a private security company, and they could be armed, and that kind of stuff. So we were down there. Pretty wild place. It was like the worst place, this halfway house. And so we were staying outside the whole time. Well, this one incident that was very interesting to me was they had, I had just gotten there, and True Father had just gotten there. And, we're waiting around, and all of a sudden we see this commotion going on inside the house because they had glass doors. And basically you could see, the halfway house, they had prisoners, from the prison that would come down there, and they had drug addicts that were there also that all had to go through this halfway house. So, you can imagine that kind of circumstance. And these guys that were always, drinking coffee and watching TV and, reading books, they were supposed to be watching over everybody there and, and making sure all the prisoners that came for the night or however long they spent there did what they were supposed to do. So, like all of a sudden there was this big commotion in there, and they're getting all the people that were supposed to be downstairs and cleaning up. They wanted them to come downstairs because they didn't like what they had done. And so, we ran right over to the door and find out, and they explained all of that. And so Father was, up all day, and he never stops all day, and he came down the stairs, and he went downstairs with the rest of the prisoners, and so we went right over to the basement. We were there because you could see it was like a 3-story house, and then you had the glass doors that opened, so we saw everything. And then he goes downstairs and with the other people that were prisoners, and they had what was that? So they started cleaning up. Father had the vacuum cleaner pushing it around. He had his, little outfit on that they make everybody wear. And these guys, as soon as they could, they brought him downstairs. Now they want everybody to go back upstairs because they want to get back to their drinking coffee and watching TV and all of that stuff. So they're all cleaning up, and all the people, they start going upstairs, but Father's staying down below. He's cleaning things up and looking for all the little things and to do. And then the last thing, and this guy was getting upset because he wanted to go upstairs, but Father was still cleaning everything. And so my face is about this far from the basement window. I'm looking, and I'm looking in like this, and Father couldn't see me because, it's light in there and it's dark out where I am. And Father comes right over to the window, his face is about this close to it, so our faces are about that far apart. And he's looking, and he sees all this junk on the windowsill. And he just takes his hands, he's looking for something to put it in, and he takes his hands and he just, pushes it into his hands like this and takes it and, and looks for a place to dump it. And then after this guy is really steaming, he wants to go upstairs. Then he goes upstairs. And that was it, for the night. So Father, he always said he goes to the end. He does more than he has to do. And that's exactly what he did. And that's just a small example because he's always lived his life like that.
And for you, having to serve True Parents, even at the halfway house, security was there, making sure True Parents are okay, True Father is okay. And there, you had a face-to-face experience.
You want to, we didn't talk about this one, but you want a real quick one?
Yeah.
Because...
Oh, I'm excited here.
Back when Father was in prison, the New York Post, and you can find this if you Google it. The New York Post had this little cartoon, right? You remember that cartoon? And they had all the prisoners doing this thing that we call kyungbae, bowing down like this, and they're hanging from the jail cells and all of that, and the two guards are standing there, and they're saying, hey, we got to get him out of here before he marries everybody in here. So, and the reason I wanted to tell you that story because, I went a couple of times up to the prison, and there's a waiting room, and some people could come in, and I just happened to be one of the people that could come in with True Mother, and that day. But those guards, they'd be on each side of the room. When True Father came into the room, they kind of go like this, So that's kind of a lead up because. When we left that halfway house on the last day, you couldn't believe the response. People missed seeing Father so much. They left, and it was like, bye, Reverend Moon. And I remember that so clearly today, because we wanted to get out, but they wouldn't let Father go. They were talking to him, and they couldn't speak Korean very well, and Father's just talking to them in broken English, and but they really liked Father. There are a lot of people there that it's like they just liked him.
That's awesome. Yeah, great story, and
yeah. So not too many people saw that, but I can tell you, I represent only myself. I'm responsible for the sole content of my words. So.
Copyright Bob Smart, so none of you better be telling the story without royalties to this guy. And yeah, throughout all those years, East Garden, attending True Parents, it's not Las Vegas. Las Vegas, our summertime's kind of tough, but other than that, we're pretty spoiled, pretty good weather. But it gets cold in New York.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And even if it's cold, True Parents' determination's still strong, and you have an experience to share about that.
Yeah, so we talked about, this was up at Holy Rock. East Garden is in New York, Hudson River, very windy, in the wintertime. I think Father sensed something like what was going to happen with this trial was, about to happen. So we got a call one night. True Mother called down and said, Father's going to start going out to Holy Rock. So we don't exactly know what that is because you're told things and then they kind of unfold from there. And so True Father was going to go out every night, and it was about 4 o'clock, I think, about 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, very early. It was so cold that winter, really cold. We'd be bundled up and, everything, boots and, hats and scarves, and that wind would just blow so hard, really, really tough. And there were about 4 or 5 of us, Mr. Wachna and maybe Steve Tarble, a lot of people that are in this area now. We were up there on that, and on that mountainside there where the Holy Rock was. So we'd go up and to the first floor, and Father, we knew Father was coming because he'd be jogging back and forth on the second floor, inside the house. This was the old house, not the new house. And so as soon as he finished, he'd come right down, and he put on these little Korean thin shoes, like a sandal almost, rubber sandal, white, and just his socks and that, and put on a coat. He had a coat, and then he didn't put on a hat, and he went up. We'd walk up with him to the Holy Rock, and there's a platform there, and he just sat down on the platform, and there he just sat there for no less than 30 minutes, but it could have been anywhere from 40 minutes to an hour. And he just sat there and prayed, and he'd be, going back and forth like this. And, after and we'd be there. I can't tell you how cold and miserable that was to be up there, even all wrapped up. And True Father is like 60s at this point. And he had, but at some point when he finished, he would, just get right up. And I could see many times his face, he was sweating. It's amazing that he was sweating, and he'd have to start rubbing his face like this. Otherwise, I think it would have frozen right on his face. But, and Mother wanted him to wear a hat and all of that stuff. And so, Father had a big head, physically big head. And we tried to, get a good warm hat that was going to fit on there, Well, we got one. One of the guards found one, that could fit. He wouldn't wear it. Same thing, those shoes, every night, really cold. I cannot think to this day how he could have done that. But, he talked about that, going to prison and standing out in the cold, and with other, your knees used to shake so much you could hear the other prisoners knocking their knees, knocking together. But Father somehow, had such an intenseness about him and spirituality about him that, and that was living proof of it to me, because I know we were as cold as you could possibly imagine, and he's there, but of course he's a human being, so he's got to get down fast and, keep that from freezing. But quite amazing. He did that for, I can't remember how long, but it might have been about 40 days or so. But it was very intense.
And all those times you're serving True Parents, at that stage in our movement, True Father was very much the head leader, the face, and everything kind of revolved. And everyone's trying so hard to hurry and keep up with our True Father at that time. Now in our Providence, True Mother is now the main person taking the lead of our movement, and how can you share the experiences you saw of how True Mother was during that time when serving in East Garden?
Well, from kind of our standpoint, True Mother always had a very low-key position. She wasn't really out front there doing, that. She was always with Father. Father would, she'd always have to be there, no matter how she felt, she had to be there. And we want to get to that story. I'm just trying to think the best way to get into this one. Specifically, my experience with True Mother was we used to have a team of people. This is the tour, because True Mother did a lot of touring, speaking around the world. And so I was kind of the point person for security lots of times, most of the time for about 7 tours. And, so I had a chance that a lot of people hadn't had to actually see what true mother is like on her own, you know. And of course, you know, she would have, you know, speak and practice all the time. And, you know, she's going to all of these places. And we used to, members around the world, they'd want mother to go and see some things and, you know, and just kind of, they wanted to take care of mother. But she was very much focused on speaking. Reading her speech, practicing her speech. She'd do it in the jet. She'd do it in the hotel before she spoke. She'd do it again afterwards. She'd have a meeting, you know, with all the members afterwards. If you were in some of those countries, you knew. And even in the U.S., you know, they'd always have a meeting afterwards because True Father couldn't be there. You know, his mother speaking to her. So they'd set up all of this sound equipment and you could, you know, and they'd talk after the speech, no matter what the time was where mother was, father would be there, you know, listening, you know, to all the reports and all of those things. And it was very, very tough. The schedule was very tough, you know, for mother. And she didn't feel good lots of times because, you know, he had to take a lot of medication, malaria medication and all of this stuff. And, you know, it would just not make people feel very good. And, you know, different things like altitude, couldn't breathe, you know, that made it difficult. So anyway, the point of that is that she had a hard time. Lots of times it was very spiritual because, you know, people, they just didn't want to cooperate. Many times we'd have a hard time on these tours, but mother would be undaunted. You know, no matter how anybody felt, we had to keep going because mother was doing the same thing. And then what happened, this one time, it was very difficult, and then all of a sudden, you know, and we had this meeting afterwards, and we were trying to set up with father, and the sound equipment wouldn't work. This was, I believe, this was on the first world tour. And so we're really struggling to get this working, and mother's looking kind of dejected because she's not going to be able to speak with father, you know, that night. And so all of a sudden, she's sitting on one end of the couch, you know, waiting for the telephone call to come through. And all of a sudden, father's voice just comes through on the equipment. It started working. And, you know, that seat had to be about 6 feet wide, you know, and the phone was on the other end. Well, I'm watching, and mother just transited that 6 feet in like one leap, you know, and there was nothing that was made her happier than to hear father's voice on the phone. And believe me, that wasn't always difficult because sometimes father would be upset and she'd hand the phone over to Mr. Kim, you know, because, you know, he didn't want to deal with that. She didn't want to deal with that. But then, you know, but they'd have a great meeting, and father would tell her to do something sometimes, and I'd go, oh, no, you know, we got to do that. And the pilots would say, I'm going to have to tell the pilots, you know, he wants to do this. And but mother would just go, yeah, father wants it, we'll do it. You know, so she was just, she was absolutely, you know, a 100%er when it came to that tour and doing what father asked her to do, even though some of us were dragging along, you know.
Yeah, I can imagine. And as we wrap up, you told me, he actually struggled because I told him we have about 20, 25 minutes. He's like, I got way more than 20, 25 minutes of experiences and stories. And I said, we'll have to have you again, or we'll have to do a longer time. But for this segment, it's really just nuggets for our community. And one of the things we were speaking about and sharing was, how do you, when people ask, oh, can you tell me what true parents are like? Or can you do it? It's difficult for you actually to describe to people what your parents are like. So why is that so?
Well, you know, I was doing an outside job, and I was working with one of the True Children, their children out for about 7 years. And so I used to have a lot of outside people around that I was working with. And so I would talk to them a little bit. And they knew who I was. They knew what I did and all of that stuff. And so And they'd ask me some questions, and, basically the standard is that, it's very difficult to tell you, who true Father is, to help you understand, because there is nobody. I can say with certainty, because as the years pile on, I see that there's nobody, as a real quick example. I was at the movie Gandhi, remember? Movie Gandhi. And I was sitting just this far from True Father. And I'm thinking to myself, Gandhi was a great man, really incredible person. But, just what Father's done in his life and his level of sacrifice, you couldn't imagine. But to tell somebody that, you'd have to see somebody, that actually did, things the way that he did it, how intensely he actually lived. It's just same thing with True Mother, very intense. Can you imagine, a person like that, and you have to be married to them? What kind of stature, internal capability you must have. So True Mother's really something. She's Father's equal in many ways, right? She's one. No, but see, that's something that I got to see personally. Maybe other people, they hear that, but, when Father would go on a tour, we'd go, oh, no, this is going to be brutal. It was always brutal, for the guards, and Father's late 60s and 70s, it's brutal, following him around. So when Mother went on a tour, it's like, a little bit easier, So, but even then, very intense, and Mother would, so you can appreciate, because Father was the way he was, you never met anybody like him, because I don't think there's anybody ever even close, the level of sacrifice, the sincerity, He just couldn't do enough for God. I absolutely believe that, because I don't think there was ever a time when he didn't think about God.
Amazing. So, on behalf of we have a lot of young people in the audience, so on behalf of a younger generation that won't be able to have those type of experiences, I want to thank you for sharing. Thank you for coming up, sharing with our community.
You're welcome.
And you have a very unique perspective, and I'm so glad we had this time to share. Let's give them a round of applause.